So we're going to be presenting about statistics in football, money spent versus the success of each team. My name is Nicholas Andre.
My name is Mohammed Amin.
I'm Harmanpreet Saini.
And I'm Salman Yarkhan.
So first we're going to be covering the overview.
The first section we'll be covering is the overview. What we are trying to figure out is the amount of money spent by each team, whether that be on new players and other factors, if that affects the team's success or failure in the game. The data we will be ranging from is from the past 7 years, 2012 to 2019. All items in the population include Manchester United, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Manchester City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Juventus, and Paris Saint-Germain. To date, the top 10 most valuable teams in the world. At the very bottom, we have Paris Saint-Germain, valued at 1.1 billion euros. Then we have Juventus, 1.3 billion euros. Liverpool, 1.6 billion euros. Chelsea, 1.7. Arsenal, 2.1. Continuing on, we have Manchester City, 2.2 billion. Bayern Munich, 2.6 billion. Barcelona, 2.8 billion. Real Madrid, 3 billion. And finally, at the very top, we have Manchester United at 3.2 billion. All items in this list are quantitative.
Right here we have the total amount of money spent on players for the past 7 years, 2012 to 2019. The most spent was Manchester City with 1.4 billion euros. The least amount spent was Bayern Munich at 700 million euros.
Using the same population data, we were able to determine the exact amount of money spent on players specifically for the past 7 years. At the very bottom, we have Bayern Munich rounded up to 700 million euros, then Arsenal, 850 million, Liverpool, 960 million, Real Madrid at 1.1 billion, Chelsea at 1.3 billion, Manchester United at 1.3 billion, Juventus at 1.3 billion, Paris Saint-Germain 1.3 billion, Barcelona 1.4 billion, and Manchester City at the very top, again, at 1.4 billion euros.
So here is the analysis, and we'll be showing the top 10 teams and their value in the transfer market of all the countries in Europe. As you can see, we decided to do a bar graph to see if there's a trend between success and money. If you can see from the graph itself, you have teams like Manchester City who have allocated over 1.5 billion euros to teams like FC Bayern Munich who have spent barely over 800 million euros in the transfer market between 2012 to 2019. Looking at the bar graph of money spent on teams versus success, one can understand that first of all, there are approximately 10 classes ranging from the top 10 seeds listed previously in the other slides. The independent variable in this scenario would be money spent, and the dependent variable would be the success of a team, in theory, which would make the assumption that there logically should be a stronger correlation between the success of a team and how much money you would invest in a team. Looking at the first graph, this should be evident since Manchester City has spent over 1.5 billion euros from 2012 to 2019, logically making them the stronger team than any of the 9 other teams. Looking at the second graph, this theory is somewhat true and somewhat false, since the independent variable gets switched around and no longer have the same variation, meaning that just because you spend money doesn't necessarily indicate that teams will be successful. This is evident as teams such as Bayern Munich and Juventus don't necessarily spend as much as Manchester United, but they do have more trophies. Looking at the y-intercept that crosses through the graph in the second chart, one can assume that some of this theory is still true in terms of spending money and having more wins, since all teams that cross the y-axis at 160 when the x-axis is 0 have more than 160 wins, meaning that teams such as PSG and Barcelona, who do spend a lot of money, have more wins than teams that don't spend, such as Chelsea and Liverpool.
So in terms of money spent as well as the value of the team, again, just as number of wins, it does not correlate to the number of trophies won. We can see Barcelona, yes, is one of the higher spenders, as well as Bayern Munich, but they are one of the ones that have the most trophies won in the past 7 years. So as well, just again, like you can see, Manchester United is the most valuable team and has spent one of the most. Same with Manchester City. They are nowhere near the amount of trophies won in the past 7 years. So the amount spent does not equal to the success of each team. On this slide, we can see the success of each team when it comes to trophies won and the money spent on players. The team that has spent the most money per trophy has been Liverpool with 481 million, while Bayern Munich has gotten their best value at 36.8 million euros per trophy.
Moving on to this graph, our original statement was that the independent variable x, which is the amount of money spent on teams, would increase the outcome for the dependent variable y, which were the games won. But in this case, the correlation between these two doesn't exist entirely. Looking at the team Bayern Munich, their spending was significantly lower than the rest of the teams, but their outcome for the games won was much higher than the others as well. Although the last graph showed us that spending more money doesn't always provide more wins, looking at this graph we can tell there is a positive correlation between the independent and dependent variable, but it is a weak positive association with a correlation coefficient where r is equal to 0.3301. To provide a clear statement on correlation coefficients, the r value is always between -1 and 1. So in this case, the closer the value is to 0, the weaker the relationship. A positive correlation indicates that large values of one variable are most likely tied along with the large values of the other variable.
In conclusion, I just wanted to let you guys know that the data obtained was the value of each team, their victories in their respective leagues, and finally, the trophies won across all competitions for the past 7 years. In Chapter 5, we reviewed the correlation, and in this scenario, we have found that money spent on teams does not result in a higher amount of wins and trophies. As Osama stated, the result is 0.33, which ends up being a weak positive correlation, as well as trophies won versus money spent result in a 0.25, weak positive correlation. These results were obtained using the correlation calculation within Excel. More on our findings, we have concluded that there are many more variables other than just money a team is worth, teams spend on players, and these would be such as tactics, coaches, coaching staff, health of the players, and of course now with the loved and hated new system called VAR or VAR.